we talked about the same things on here because me and you, we went to Forbidden Door. We experienced that live experience. Yes, we did watch the pre-show from the bar next door. Key point, we did watch it, but we watched it from the bar next door because who wants to sit in the same seat for 6 hours? I expressed the same points as you about the difference. You know, I maybe compared it to a Trump rally before. Maybe I'll edit that out of the final file. But, you know, going to Money in the Bank and being around the WWE fans who are just 10 times more into what's going on right now, and it's just a very different kind of kettle of fish when you go to a live WWE show, from an organization point of view, from just, you know, the merchandising to just them having their shit together, you know, and experience secondhand, you know, through you, what the media situation is like at AEW compared to WWE. And I've had obviously interactions with AEW media myself as well. I could have written exactly the same thing you wrote, and I pretty much said it all on our podcast, and I got barely any pushback. Mm-hmm. Your tweets have been something this last couple of days. I don't know if you want to answer the haters with anything on it, but no, I thought you like we did on the podcast made fair points. Apparently you're just WWE pilled, which is funny because people could say that about me. Literally, our YouTube comments had somebody calling me AEW pilled, so I was like, well, which way is it, lads? You know, it just tends to be, doesn't it? Whichever side of the whatever argument you're making, that's you in that moment at any given time with the discourse right now.
Well, I don't think I'm helping my case right now because you can see my WWE towel in the background and my Pharaoh. I'm not WWE pilled, but
I've got your AEW hat here. I can just display it if you want to.
Right, dude. I walk around with an AEW.
Show your phone
lanyard all day. Oh yeah, always got my AEW lanyard on that. But these towels were given out free at the WWE event to everyone. So of course I took one. And
again, smart merchandising. They had a white party, didn't they? Smart. They wanted everyone to wear white.
And they wanted everyone to bring these towels. They were given out at SmackDown, so they wanted everyone to bring it and Money in the Bank, so that you had like a whole sea of towels. But yeah, some funny reactions to what I wrote for sure. A lot of people taking you're just WWE pilled or you want that WWE job and everything, which is, I think, really funny. Yeah, because anyone that's definitely like followed me for a long time has knows how enthusiastic I was and still am about AEW. And I even said when I kind of did a follow-up on my most recent Substack post, which is like the start of a newsletter I'm trying to do, that I do think I'm actually kind of unfair to WWE because a lot of my coverage slants more on AEW because I do prefer their wrestling. And I did say in my article that Forbidden Door had the better matches. Like nothing was going to top Ospreay, Swerve, and also Zack and Orange Cassidy too. That I totally loved. But I think if AEW is taking like someone like me who was that enthusiastic enough to spend money to go see them when the pandemic ended, when maybe some other people that went to see WWE weren't doing it out of their own pocket, but I did that with AEW. It's been 4 years since that now, but 5 years since the whole company. And there's these things where they just haven't made improvements, no matter what they've said or no matter how time has gone on. And you just look at, I think, so Joe Lanza broke the whole thing of the fast nationals and WWE giving them to certain reporters and stuff.
Fix on Between the Sheets, wasn't it? Definitely.
Yeah. So Joe kind of broke that thing originally in his writing on Voices, and then him and Bix did do a great podcast this weekend. And it's people, what I don't get is people being surprised by these tactics, because it's yes, of course WWE are doing that. Of course they want AEW to look in a worse state than it is, and there's no denying that they are direct competition. But I'd kind of argue that the WWE PR people are just doing their job, whereas the AEW ones are sitting back. And that's not that I'm saying that I agree with putting out dodgy numbers or whatever, but they're doing their job.
Should be ashamed. It's the people doing it, not necessarily the tactic of
even if we
can all have opinions on that.
away from those tactics, which are kind of shady, like they do other things, like treat the media well, like provide them with interviews. Like I went to that media day on Friday, and I only talked to Chelsea Green, like just by choice. And I'm going to put that up on my YouTube probably tomorrow. But when got home, I'm looking through my Twitter feed. It's interviews with Chelsea, Tiffany Stratton, like all over my feed. Could not escape these people because WWE are providing the media with that. So it felt like, oh yeah, it's really Money in the Bank weekend. Whereas like build up to Forbidden Door, like what do you see? It's not a Twitter feed full of all the outlets pushing out this content that promotes the pay-per-view. So there's stuff like that. They don't do those little touches. Like I've asked AW when I've been in America if I can get in-person interviews. They've told me like we don't do that. They did do a junket for All In, but I think like the level of talent they provided was not good. I mean, he's someone that I have spoken to many times outside of doing an interview with him, but like Anthony Ogogo had not been on TV for a year. I nearly said 10 years there. It felt like it. And like, he was one of the people they had at the junket. So I had to like awkwardly sit with him and be like, hey man, what have you been up to since the last time I saw him?
The
last time I saw him was at an AEW event they flew him over for and didn't use him. So there's that, So they do stuff like that. And I've interviewed AEW wrestlers like over Zoom while being in the same city as them and had them be like, oh, you're here? Why aren't we doing this in person? I'm like, well, because that's apparently not something that you do. So it's like these like little touches would really help. Now, the scrums is a whole separate issue. So I don't know if you have anything to say back to any of the points I just made.
Yeah. I mean, does it shock you, Gareth? I mean, that's just that's the thing that stands out for me. It's the fact that AEW's been around 5 years, and of course we've got all these head starts, but there are still things like that they could be doing better. The match situation could and should very clearly be better to get into the media, scrums and stuff like that. They could be better organised, and they could, there was a point where that was another bit of pushback. You got, oh, you're not a professional if you left before the media scrum. Like, I haven't been there, and I was still outside the arena. It was 1:15 in the morning. It was me and about 4 other people left in the entire arena. This is after the Forbidden Door show, and you're in the media scrum. And Tony Khan hasn't even gotten started yet. And the last train to New York is at 1:30. And they've got fucking wrestlers out there dancing in front of you. Like, I didn't tell you to leave, but I'm not shocked you did. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is going to go on longer than it's even possible to get home. They're not taking, like Brandon said, there's like a lack of respect, I suppose, for your time. And just, again, that's an organisational thing.
There is definitely a lack of like respect for your time. I don't want to go as far as to say like a lack of respect for the media, but there are a couple of things like you can see clearly with Tony, like who he respects, and it's like Dave, like basically. But I think that and he's always like, oh, thank you very much for coming here. But like for certain, like they don't respect your time, and they don't respect the give and take. So I mentioned in that article, like a situation I had where I was trying to organize an interview with someone from AEW, a wrestler, doing it through the PR people, and I nearly didn't get to do it. And I get this response back that says, well, I'm sure you'll have plenty with like live shows, a pre-show call, and then a post-media scrum. You'll have like plenty of content. And it was like at that moment that I was like, oh, so they think, or at least this person's mentality is that they are doing you a favor. That it's not like a give and take partnership thing where like if you work with WWE, they're like, we'll, give you an interview with whoever, and then that's publicity for us. They're like, oh, we're doing these people a favor by letting them interview someone because, oh, they get so much already with these calls, which AEW doesn't let you broadcast like anymore. The scrum is live on their YouTube. Nothing is exclusive at all. And that's kind of how they see it. And I don't think that's a very good way of them looking at it. And they've had enough time and opportunity to fix this, and they haven't. And as far as that particular scrum goes, I did not not attend it. I walked out of it because I was so insulted. And if I'd been asked why you're walking out in that moment, I would have said, because I am so insulted, at what they decided to do at 1 a.m. in the morning, having female wrestlers dance while Tony Khan sits there. It's just not on.
I mean, just, you talk about this, and then obviously, thing is, though, is that article that you wrote, obviously from, knowing you've been on podcasts with you and things like that over the years and things I know that's a drum that you've been banging for years, though, around things like the merchandise and the things of the professionalism of the marketing side of things and the media side of things. And it's just, it's one of those things that you take a step back and you think you're half a decade into being a professional multi-million-pound media company, and then you still can't get the basic stuff like this correct, yet you'll still be hoovering up and putting the money into wrestlers and things like that, yet you can turn up to a show and not get a fucking t-shirt for a main event on the show, or you're not you're not doing basic PR in the regions where you're promoting an event and things, and it's oh, surprise, you can't sell out any arenas. Well, maybe actually put a bit of fucking effort into that side of the business as well. It's not just a case of just throwing a bit of dough at some, oh, here we go, we've got Johnny TV. He's going to put some bums on seats, isn't he? No, he's not, kind of thing. And there's somebody you've now got contracted now for another 12 months or 2 years. Actually, that money should probably have gone to maybe hire a proper merchandise manager, or maybe hire somebody who's a, PR background from events or something like that, or TV or things, boost the off camera side of things. And when I sort of saw the feedback that you were getting there, and then you look at the I mean, you take a step back and you actually look at your article, and I was thinking, how many people have actually read this article? Because it couldn't be more balanced if you tried, where you tried to put that, you're getting across you're an AEW day one person, referencing how many different shows that you've been to and things like that, and you're just people, it just sort of, I suppose, shows the extent to which people will just go off a soundbite or a basic headline or something like that, which we know, but the idea that your own biases and professionalism, and that's that is the worst thing with almost wrestling these days, and just makes stuff tiresome. It's just that tribalism. You can't say anything without being pigeonholed to be one way or the other, and it's it's this two-way thing that you're either on that side of the fence or the other. It's crazy.
We joke about that here with me and Matty, and one of the points you made in the article made me think of the Matty, because mentioned the merch. How many people did we see walking around with Yeet t-shirts on? It was seeing Matty's.
Oh God, yeah.
Everywhere I looked, it was a Matty. It was hell for me. But it was it made Jey Uso feel like the biggest star in the world, and there's a cumulative effect there, and that's one of the things you pointed out. But to what Garrett's saying there, absolutely, that some of the feedback is saying, oh, she's mad about this, but she's not mad about Vince McMahon. And it's I mean, and the WWE lawsuit with Janelle Grant. Yes, she fucking is, because she mentions in the piece about that. There is a paragraph where you mention that, but obviously that was about other things. That doesn't mean you don't have strong takes on that elsewhere. But everything's everything's just it's tit for tat, isn't it? And the people doing that are using that to win the stupid, the people who are saying that to you are the people on Twitter with @AEW in the profile going, well, you're biased because you wrote an article laying out the experience of going to an AEW show and a WWE show and laid out the pros and cons of both, and your conclusion was that WWE was a more professional outlet, well, therefore you're biased to WWE. It's no, that's just an opinion based on the information that was in front of you, and these are people, like I say, with @AEW, #AEW, in the profile and stuff, and it goes both ways. Obviously, the people in the ET shirts have probably got similar profiles on Twitter. Your burners on Matty that give me grief in the comment section on YouTube. I know you've got a few going, but I know it exists on both sides, but it's just insane. It's just absolutely insane.
It's absolutely wild. I love on Twitter. Do you ever get it when you think, I just got followed by a pretty girl, and then you look at the profile and you're like, that's a picture of Liv Morgan. That's a picture of, it's just some WWE stand. But the comparison thing, I've written about Vince McMahon, my feelings on Vince McMahon, and maybe we'll talk about it more if we get into Ric Flair. But I did the other day write about Ric Flair and mentioning the Vince McMahon stuff. Vince is like a level of bad that, my God, I hope no one else ever reaches, but it doesn't mean that like no one else can be called out for anything because they're not Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
But going on off what Gareth was saying about all the little things that AEW doesn't do, I do sometimes wonder, is this maybe down to Tony previously, his family buying the Jags and buying Fulham, and like we all know who those teams are without anything having to go into it. So when he created something with AEW, he didn't have the mindset of we have to like educate people on on what AEW is. We have to promote it. We have to do all these little things because like I don't think Fulham Football Club needs like the promotion to make people fans. Do you know what I mean? To make people buy tickets, they just have to be a good football team, and same with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Can I just go back to something you said earlier, Steph, on the YouTube stuff you're saying when you went to the Money in the Bank? Like, it might just be my algorithm, Ben, as well, but it's like whenever there is a WWE like event, as Steph said, you'll have the same backdrop, but so many different interviewers interviewing these wrestlers. Was when AEW do something, and it was only Wembley really. I've seen it where they were on like the Snack Wars or getting interviewed on stuff. You don't see it, and I think that's not just my algorithm, because I get all my wrestling on there, and Khan himself will go on, Wrestling Observer Radio the week before a pay-per-view. That's about, you might get Jericho doing like some local whatever, but they need to be sending all these wrestlers out doing more stuff, getting the names out there. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And again, if we're gonna do that partisan thing, that's coming from Matty. But I'd agree, as somebody who would, again, you would agree, Steph, to want AEW to be better, to be in better positions for what I would say is the better product right now, to be seen by more people, for more people to be in the arenas for those shows. These are all things that are constructive criticism, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, and I think that AEW to me is still the better wrestling product, but WWE, it's a combination of actually doing better storylines now. You know, the Bloodline story that Maddie likes so much. I fucking love the Drew and Punk stuff, but they've like built around it to make it seem maybe even bigger than it actually is. They've got the marketing around all this stuff, and AEW just don't have that. And I mean, they're using someone now from WWE in their PR, but to me, like, there hasn't been a big difference with that. And I think I'm pretty sure like that person is tasked with more doing like the local appearances, but they don't even use that properly. I think it was a scrum I went to. It might have been the Dynasty scrum when Swerve won the title. And he was saying that people say like he's not featured enough, but he does all this and like this stuff. And I was like, well, good for you. But like your company don't promote you doing all this stuff. You know how you'll see on Raw, like what superstars are doing. If AEW don't properly promote, even when their wrestlers get to do all these outside things to help promote the company,